Welcome to our Tuesday session of the Joint OTL and Teaching and Technology Center Forum for Student Engagement Week. Oh, the things Zoom can do. Sort of like all the places you will go, which is one of my favorite Dr. Seuss books and one of my 6-year-old son's favorites too. So hopefully that'll be fun. So you've already seen one of the things that Zoom can do already and have commented on it, which is the ability for a closed captioning live transcript. This is a very, very useful thing. You can add live subtitles. If you're in charge of your Zoom meeting, you can then hide the subtitles. You see they're no longer available. I make them available again. You can click to view the full transcript, which can appear to the right-hand side, and adjust the different settings as well. So that's just one of the little things that Zoom can do to help engage students and also help with accessibility as well. So I figure what we're going to do today is, first of all, I want to thank both Interim OTL Director Cindy Kane and Eric LePage and Tim Wenson from the TTC from helping set this up. I think this is going to be a really fun forum and a great opportunity for faculty. So I figure what I'm going to do now is dive into, first of all, screen sharing. Now, how many of you have used screen sharing in Zoom before? Just as a show of hands, you can throw up your hand if you've got your camera on, or you can give me a thumbs up or raised hand in the reactions button, or throw it up into the chat as well. So just about everybody has used screen sharing before. So what I'd like to do is, just as a general thing, I'd like you to open up the chat and tell me, what have you been using screen sharing for the most? Just opening up in the chat, what are you using screen sharing for the most? We've got sharing presentation slides, lectures and video, slideshow sharing, student presentations, going over assignments and videos, walking students through Blackboard, demos. What kind of demos, Kimberly?
So it was kind of like what Tim was saying. We usually used it for the office hours, and we would share a screen to show people like how we did certain things that they had asked about.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm going to be leading people through a few of the different things that Zoom can do. Now, most of you are already using Zoom for screen sharing for, as you said, the virtual office hours, for walking students through Blackboard or through PowerPoints. So I'd like to begin by showing you a few of the other things that Zoom can do, and then I'd like to jump back into PowerPoints and show you a few other cool options for PowerPoints as well. So your share screen button, as you know, is generally available in the direct center, and it's going to open up a page, and you're going to see basic and advanced, these two buttons at the top. And we're going to start with basic. Now, basic usually allows you to choose whatever application you have open, including your web browser or PowerPoint. One of the ones that I've found very useful, however, is the Zoom whiteboard. So that's the first that we're going to jump into today. So if you go to basic and you click whiteboard. Now, what you should see in front of you is basically a blank white screen, but this also has another button up here called the annotate function. If you don't currently have that, you can access it by going to the buttons at the top. You'll either see, depending on what version you have, you're either going to see a button that says annotate or whiteboard, or you'll have to click on the more section of the Zoom bar to find annotate. Now, when you get to annotate, there's a lot of different options. Now, some of the things you can do is you can type in text. Oops. Okay. You can type in text. You can also do drawings. So for example, if I wanted to underline this, you could do this as a underline here. You can create arrows. You can create different kinds of shapes, both filled and unfilled. Tom, do you still have your hand up, or are you turning it? Do you have a question?
No, I'm all set. I just can't find a way to get it down.
Oh, that's okay. Not a problem. So these are all sorts of cool things that you can do. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to play around with it, with the draw function. You can also create other filled objects. You can create ones that are translucent as well. So if you wanted to highlight something, so for example, if anyone has been able to find the annotate function, if you want to type something in, just type something in here to the whiteboard. So Stacy's saying, hi, Mike, right? If I wanted to go and highlight, oh, there you go. I love the I'm not too much. So if you want to highlight that, you can move the translucent box over here. So you can highlight different comments. People can also do free drawing of different types. So that's a thin free drawing. You can also do a thicker free drawing that's almost like a free highlighting. So you can do that as well, right? So you can clear, also have the option to clear all the different drawings off the board, clear your own drawings or clear the viewer's drawings. Now you'll notice that when you go over somebody's drawings, you'll see the person's name. You can also change this under the More button to disable annotation for other people or to hide the names of annotators. So for example, right now, right, I hide this, all of a sudden all of the different comments are anonymous. I go show the names of annotators, and all of a sudden the names become available again. So now I see something in the chat here from help, I can't find the Zoom bar you're talking about. So again, to access the, oh, you're all set. You're all set. So there's all sorts of things that you can do. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to clear all the drawings that people just made. Now I'd like you to, now another thing that this can be used for is almost like a student poll or collecting information. So for example, let's say that there's a question that you ordinarily want to do in a Zoom poll, right? And students can only choose in a Zoom poll from A, B, C to get like a pre-selected section. But let's say that you wanted a free selection of comments. You wanted people to be able to comment on something however they want, right? And then you want people to be able to like or dislike those comments, very much like you would see on a Padlet, which we're going to be covering tomorrow for Student Engagement Week. You can definitely do that. So I'm going to offer a free poll question to everybody who's in this forum right now.
Michael, I'm trying to find the raise hand button. I can't. I just have a question.
Okay, Melissa, that's all right. Go right ahead.
I wasn't able to like add anything like as far as typing. How was everybody doing that?
Well, once you, to access the annotate bar, you can go to the main Zoom bar, click on more, and there should be, you should be able to click annotate, and that should open up the annotate bar. That should include things like text, draw, stamp, spotlight, eraser, etc.
How did you do that? I don't see a annotate like, and when I couldn't view options at the top.
Yes, so you can also go to, so it's not, if it's not under more, you can also go to view options as well.
Okay.
So you can also find it under view options.
And then, yeah, when I go to the view options, I don't see an annotate.
Okay, so you can go to view options under the tab, and then should be, so you don't see an annotate. So
view options, no.
Under view options, okay. Well, this is one of the key elements of annotate that may be an issue, is depending on what version of Zoom you have or what kind of computer you have, it might not show up where you expect it to show up. For a lot of people, it's going to be like the third option down under view options should be annotate. You may also want to check the main Zoom bar to see if it is available there. It may also, instead of annotate, it may also be listed under whiteboard. Now, the advantage of this is even if people cannot find the annotate function, if they want to just simply type something in, the option that I find that works well with classes and particularly engaging with students is students can then type what they want into the chat. And then I can type it in myself using the annotate function. So if you're the host or co-host, you're automatically going to have access to this on the main Zoom taskbar. If you're a participant or a student, you may not have access to this except through view options, right? Or depending on the version, not at all. So if you can put it under the chat. Oh, you found it. You found it. Awesome.
Okay.
All right. So what I'd like to do this for, I'm going to clear all the drawings. So what I'm going to use this for now is I'm going to use this for sort of a general poll where people can have open-ended questions. So we all remember what happened last night with that wonderful Microsoft outage. I am sure that Eric is still having all sorts of wonderful nightmares about it, as I saw from the email that he sent out at about 1 or 2 in the morning. So I am going to just open up the floor to a general question, just to let people vent for a general poll question. I'd like you to use the annotate function and tell me what are some of the different ways in which Microsoft Teams stinks? So what are some of the different ways, what are some of the frustrations you've experienced with Microsoft Teams? Because goodness knows, for me, I have plenty of them to deal with. So some people just straight don't use it. Yeah, the no option to private message someone prior to the mute chat. Yeah, I hate that too. I hate that. Some people prefer Teams. Oh my goodness. The Teams allows more, so there's different. So other people don't feel the same way that I do. That's perfectly fine. So the great thing is when you put, okay, so then for those of you who really do not like, so for people who really do like Teams, put in something positive about Teams. What's something about Teams that you really enjoy? What's something about Teams that you really enjoy? Easily find old messages. Yes, so there's a bunch of different things that you can do. So when you have these messages up, so some of the things that you can do then once you've done this informal poll is you can allow students to like different messages. So if you go to the stamp function, you can put, say, a heart next to one. Like I love the idea of gifts, for example. So a student can come in and they can use their stamps to like something, or to dislike it, maybe you can use the X stamp, where let's easily find old messages. So you avoid it or you do not use it. Library catalog. You prefer Teams. Oh, I hate that. Okay, I hate Teams. So I'm gonna dislike that with an X. Right? Don't care for that one. So these are all some fun things that you can do with the whiteboard. One of the other things that this is great for is not only for sort of an informal poll like this, but you can do things like brainstorming. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to clear all the messages again, clear all the drawings. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to do a draw thing. I'm going to do a circle, and then put out all sorts of different lines for a brainstorming session. Boom, boom, boom. And those of you who know me know that I am the archaeology professor in the anthropology department. So one of the first things that I do in my archaeology classes is I focus on all what people think about archaeology. What misconceptions do they come to as part of a discipline? So I'll just put in archaeology in here, and then I'll just let students brainstorm. I'll just say, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say archaeology? And you can go ahead and use the text function to say, what is the first thing that comes to mind? So the idea of, so the stamps, Lori, that you mentioned would be right up here, right next to the draw function. So if you go on the annotate button, you'll see select, text, draw, and stamp. You can go to stamp and you can select which one you want to use. So a lot of people are saying Indiana Jones. I will tell you right now, Indiana Jones is a piss poor archaeologist. A whip, a revolver, and a fedora are never proper archaeological equipment. As a matter of fact, I can tell you all sorts of safety regulations that those break. I get, the digging dinosaurs thing. I get that one all the time. So this is an option in my sort of first class where I'm able to go through all the different options in terms of brainstorming, what comes to people's minds, or you can do word association exercises. So all sorts of, Russ Geller is a paleontologist. Paleontology is completely different. Like there's a difference. Think Jurassic Park is paleontologists, Indiana Jones is archaeologists. And Indiana Jones is not even a very good archaeologist. So there's a lot of these different things that you can have fun with and brainstorm using Zoom Whiteboard. The other cool thing is that you can also use the save button to save your whiteboard image as either a PNG, a regular picture file, thank you very much, or as a PDF. So you can just select like PDF and then click save. And I just saved this particular whiteboard as it existed when I clicked the save button as a PDF, and it will literally pop up in a folder as soon as the Zoom session is over. So you can save any of these whiteboards at any time for a later time, right? So one of the cool things that we can do, so I'm going to actually stop with the whiteboard for a second. So I'm going to click stop share. So I'm going to show you an example of previous whiteboard images, right? So let's see. So going to Zoom and clicking share screen, and I just use my regular screen. So you can see here, these are whiteboard images that I've used to show students how to set up proper excavation squares using the Pythagorean theorem, how to plot out a grid at an archaeological site, and how to operate survey equipment at an archaeological site, and the different calculations you have to do there. Now, one of the cool things, so question from Fisher, how do you save the whiteboard as a PDF? If you go to the far right end of the annotate button, you'll see an icon that looks like a download icon, and it should say save right next to it. So one of the cool things that you can do also with share screen is if you go to the advanced tab in share screen, you can choose to share a portion of your screen, right? So for example, before you saw the entire image from the whiteboard. Here, you're just seeing a portion of the image. And you can move this around to show it to students as you see fit. So for example, here using Zoom, I can quiz my students. I can say, okay, well, you have a point of known elevation at 42 meters above sea level. You have a reading from your back sight of 1.82 meters. What is the height of your instrument? Right? Now, because you're going up in elevation, you would add these two numbers together. So the height of your instrument would be, and then once students have already had a chance to answer, I can move it on over and show, oh, look, there's the height of the instrument, right? Let's say you want to know what an unknown point is, right? You've got the height of the instrument, you're going down 2.16 meters. You would subtract 2.16 from 43.82, and you would allow students to type into the chat whatever their answers would be, and then you can always move down to what the correct answer is. So being able to show only a portion of your screen can be very useful for engaging students with things like almost kind of like online real-time quizzes, right? Being able to show only a portion of an image and then asking them to fill in the blanks through the chat or through the raise hand button and answering however they see fit. Those are a couple of great options. There are other great advanced options, and I want to stop at 10:30 to make sure that April has a chance to talk about breakout rooms. There are other great advanced options as well. One of the things which is new, it's in a beta version, is using PowerPoint as a virtual background. So what this would do is basically open up your files, and you'd be able to select the PowerPoint of your choice, and it would open it up. And as you can see here, you are now seeing my PowerPoint, right, on archaeological excavation with me in the lower right-hand corner. So this is almost like a streaming thing where you can see yourself, and you can do sort of very similar to what we saw with yesterday with Screencast-O-Matic. You can point to various places in the PowerPoint as you go through and move through the PowerPoint, right? For example, in this section, archaeological staff, you can see a little arrow pointing to me, right? Right here. That is me when I was much younger and had much less gray hair than I currently have now. So this is a useful feature because it allows you to remain present, physically present, and your students can see you while you're going through your PowerPoints. So this can be a very, very useful kind of tool there. In terms of even more advanced, so to get to this particular tool, and it's a little difficult because you can't really see the pop-ups from Zoom while we're doing this. To get to this tool, you would click the share screen button, and you'll see two tabs at the top, one that says basic and one that says advanced. To get to sharing the portion of the screen or viewing PowerPoint as a virtual background, you would have to click on the advanced tab. This advanced tab also allows you to share things like computer audio, like if you wanted to share a podcast with students. It would allow you to show a video. So for example, if I click share video, again, it would open up your files. You can click on a video and the video would.
So from this point, I'm going to show you how to lay out a 50 centimeter by 50 centimeter excavation square.
So you'd be able to share these in all sorts of different ways. So this is, again, these are just a few of the different screen sharing options you would have. I would also say that if you really liked the idea of a PowerPoint as a virtual background, if you wanted to get a little bit more advanced, there's also a great free online software called OBS, right? And OBS stands for Online Broadcasting Software. This is a software and a series of plugins that are used by, say, people who stream video games live on Twitch, for example. And there is a website, which I'm going to throw in right here, that you can access with step-by-step instructions on how to do this, how to download the OBS software, how to download the plugins, how to connect Zoom and OBS. And then once you've done this, you will literally be able to use as a virtual background any program. You'll be able to show your students video games in the classroom. So for example, later this week, we're going to talk with, on Thursday, we're going to talk with Andres Montenegro Rosero, who is a TTC fellow and often uses video games for instruction in his art history classes. By connecting his Zoom and OBS together, he can stream, say, Assassin's Creed Origins and still have himself on in the background and use it to point out different art historical features within the game. This can be used to put yourself in the background of YouTube videos, to put yourself in the background of literally anything that you can show on your desktop. The last two features that I want to talk about are just a couple of other important things. Also, under the advanced options, if you go to share screen and you click on that advanced tab, another one is to connect to a second camera. So if you happen to have, let's say that you're streaming from campus, right? And you have an overhead projector and you want to stream the overhead projector to your students who you're teaching virtually in Zoom. You can click under those advanced options, connect a second camera. It would connect to that dot cam or overhead projector and display that in Zoom. And the last thing I want to say, because I've made this mistake so many times, I know I'm overloading you with information here, but the other thing I want to say, because I've made this mistake so many times, if you are streaming something that requires sound, once you hit that share screen button, look for a couple of check boxes in the lower left-hand corner of the share screen when it pops up. You'll see one that says share sound and another that says optimize for video clip. If you're sharing a video clip or anything that requires sound, then you'll want to be sure to check those boxes. The number of times in which I've shared a YouTube video, forgotten to click those boxes, and then I have to go through, I can't hear it. We can't hear anything, right? And then sometimes most students won't say anything until you're halfway through the video clip. Like, oh, really? So be sure to click that box when you're sharing your screen. And yeah, those are some of the really cool things that you can do with Zoom and the whiteboard and screen sharing. So I know it's a ton of information, but there are all these really cool things that you can do with Zoom besides just sharing PowerPoints and sharing Blackboard pages. So I think I'll turn things over to April.
I am going to add, if you are a Mac user, you also have the ability to share your iPad or iPhone. So if you have different apps that that you use on your phone or your iPad, you can share screen either through AirDrop or by just connecting it. And that's another way to kind of engage students and show them around. So today we're gonna practice a little bit. We're gonna do some, well, I think some fun things with breakout rooms. So breakout rooms, how many of you guys have used breakout rooms? Thumbs up. Some people have, okay. Thank you, I appreciate it. So it looks like there's, you know, kind of half and half in here. So I use breakout rooms a lot. So I have students kind of do, most of the time when I start my class, the first thing we do is we talk about the reading. And what I'll do is I'll have them go into small breakout rooms for just a few minutes so that they feel maybe a little bit more comfortable talking about the reading with their peers without me in the room. And then we'll come back as a big group and a larger group and then kind of talk about what they discuss. So they get a practice time. So there's basically 3 different ways that you can use breakout room, or you can set up breakout rooms. You can do it automatically where you just choose how many rooms you would like students to be in, or how many rooms you would like. You can do it manually where you choose which students go where. That one's a little bit more difficult or time consuming. And then you can also have students choose which room to go in, which can be interesting as well. So sometimes if I know I would like students to do different things. So let's say I'm working with teachers and I have some teachers in the room that are going to be in the elementary level and some that are going to be at the high school level. Sometimes what I have them do is change their name and just add HS or ES at the end of their name. Do you guys know how to change your name? Okay, so if you click on the 3 little dots on your picture, It'll say mute my audio, stop video, pin, spotlight for everyone, rename, edit profile picture, or hide self view. So you can go to rename and you can rename yourself. So this is one way. So then easily that makes my life easy if I'm doing if I'm trying to put people in groups, then I'll just look at their names and really quickly throw them manually into a group. See, look at Sue's got her name changed. Eric is now Tim Wenson. Tim is now me. We're all just changing our identities today. So obviously, you know, you want to make sure that the students know that they should appropriately change their name. So that's one way that you can use that behavior doctor like that. So that's one way that you can, you know, if you want to say, okay, how many of you guys have beginning Zoom knowledge, put a 1 after your name. How many of you are kind of consider yourself intermediate, put a 2 after your name. How many of you guys consider yourself advanced, put a 3 after your name. How about we do that right now? So 1, 2, or 3. Beginner level Zoom, mid-level, or I am an expert. So I'm gonna, so when you go to breakout rooms, it will say assign automatically, assign manually, let participants choose. So I'm gonna do 3 rooms. I'm going to assign manually, create. Sometimes this takes a while. So you usually, I don't know, I have people talk. If you didn't put your name down, I'm gonna assume, if you didn't put a number after your name, I'm gonna assume that you're a 1. See, this is why it's not as fun, but we can get there. Okay, so now I've opened all rooms.
No balloons, no confetti, no nothing.
Kind of like a 2021 New Year's.
True, true.
I don't know what we were talking about, but
She was talking about the countdown, and she's and leaving the room before the countdown's done.
I forgot that you don't have to actually watch the clock tick back. You can just go.
Oh, good point. Good point.
So typically, well, this is one thing that I mess up all the time is how much time I put people in rooms for. So it will automatically default to whatever the last thing number that you used. So clearly 20 minutes was what my students were doing last night in class. So you could have it be 5 minutes. So just make sure instead, after you create rooms, you go to settings and you can choose how many minutes you would like it to count down for, if you would like to count down at all. Otherwise, you can just keep track of it on your own. If you do groups once in a class, for that same class, if you do something together as a big group and you want them to go back into the same group, all you do is breakout rooms and then just open all rooms, and they'll all be sent to the same rooms again. So once you do it once, it becomes easier. If you do it manually, you can continue to have them be in the same groups for that session. I really wanted to leave a lot of time for questions and answers so that we can help answer your questions. And really it's all about playing. Making friends. I have my kids get on Zoom with me, and then I do different things so that I can practice. So really, I just want to open it up for questions. Michael, is there anything I haven't covered that we were going to talk about today?
No, I think we're good. I think we're good. I can't think of anything we missed. Eric or Tim, if you have anything that you want to add.
I'll just share a foolish mistake I made during a Zoom class session, something to avoid. I was having my students do presentations, and I record, like this meeting, I record the entire meeting, because that allows me, like, after watching their presentations the first time, I go back, rewatch again, and then, pull some notes together, feedback for them and whatnot, and then do the grade assessment. Well, the very first student who was presenting, I gave them co-host ability so that they could share their screen. And unbeknownst to me, they unintentionally stopped the recording. So for the rest of the evening, all the presentations that took place, I lost all of those recordings. So if you decide that you want to have students do presentations during your Zoom class meeting, I think you need to provide that co-host ability, but just be aware that you keep an eye on the recording to make sure it's like continuing if you plan on recording.
Eric, could you just turn on the ability to share the screen instead of setting them as a co-host?
Maybe I could have done that instead. Yeah, this was
That way you have less risk.
Yeah, this was early on last fall, and I was still coming up to speed on it.
I mean, others could technically share over them but you'd see who it was at least.
The other issue I would bring up is if you're having elements of Zoom meetings that are being recorded that you want to remain confidential, be sure to double check whether or not something is recording, because co-hosts have no ability to pause or stop the recording, but hosts do. So if you need to stop the recording for something that is anonymous, make sure that you're made the host before you attempt to stop the recording, because otherwise you won't be able to do it.
One of the things that I was thinking about when Michael was doing his whiteboard presentation was I do a lot of breakout groups, and that would be an easy way for me to have the students like brainstorm the reading, brainstorm something. Then they could save it and send it to me at the end of the class to get participation points. So that would be one way that they could do it in their small groups and save it and send it to me. So that would be, I think Cindy has her hand raised too.
Yes, just a question about communication to breakout groups. When you want to do things like share a link with breakout groups, is it true that you can share a link in the chat, like when the full group is together, and then when you send people into breakout rooms, they can still see the chat that you sent before they split up? But if you share something in the chat, you're only communicating with your breakout group, right?
Right. So sometimes I have made the mistake of not sending the link in time. And so then I'll just jump into each breakout room and then put it in the chat, in their breakout room chat. And when I leave, it's still there for them to see.
Okay. So if you forget before you split up, you can hop into each group, but if you remember before you split, you just have to do it once, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, gosh, we had a lot of fun. Oh, I guess I'm speaking for us. I learned some stuff today from Michael. There's a lot of different ways, and we didn't even cover everything. We just covered some of it. We didn't get into polls, or there's also the reactions, but most of you guys were using those, so that was kind of nice. But we'll be here until the end if you guys have questions. Otherwise, have a great afternoon. And what is our next event?
Our next event is this Wednesday. It is Happy St. Padlet's Day is our next event.
Very punny. I like these names.
Yes. So Happy St. Padlet Day is on Wednesday. Sorry, I'm just looking at the thing right now to make sure that I have it.
And Lori put the link in the chat if anybody
And Lori
wants to
put the
read
link in the chat. So just finding it now. Yes, so it is tomorrow, Wednesday at 11. Happy St. Padlet's Day using Padlet for student engagement with Andrea Kaysen, Eric LePage, and Alex Machado. So Padlet is a really, really fun tool and a great one to use for student engagement in the classroom. So very excited for this.
Thank you both very much.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
I also just learned that when somebody raises their hand, they pop up in the upper left-hand corner.
Mhm.
I'd never noticed that before today. Thank you.
A nice thing.
I've been scanning the screen like for the hands, and yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know why that.
I just want to see if Stephen and Carlton have any questions before we sign off. I have an 11 o'clock class I have to jump into. Nope. So all things considered, I think that went fairly well. I felt like I rambled on for a good half an hour, but
You both did great. It was
there's so
really
many
good.
things that Zoom can do beyond just sharing the PowerPoints. The whiteboard is one of my favorite things to do in the classroom, and being able to stream OBS is particularly great for those of us who use alternative media in our classes and
I read
programs that
about
aren't ordinarily shared on Zoom.
I read about OBS and it scared me. So now the fact that you mentioned it again means I have to pay attention and check it out.
It's a little complicated, but once you set it up, then it takes care of itself.
I think the guy that was talking about it mentioned that it was complicated. So that's what scared me. I'm like, oh, if you think it's complicated, then I'm not going to do it. But
Oh,
now
it
I'm gonna
is.
do
It is complicated. I actually have I have a meeting on Friday because I'm going to be live streaming a video game for an archaeology event.
Cool.
So actually it'd be interesting for OTL because I'm specifically talking about how I use the video game as a teaching tool in the classroom. So I don't know. I think I might share that information with you, Cindy, if that's all right. I don't know
that's
if
great.
It's not an official OTL thing, but I figure it's connected to gamification and game-based learning. So
Yeah. Are you going to record the session?
yeah, it's done through an external organization. It's the Save Ancient Studies Association, which is
Nice.
basically it's a nonprofit focused on saving and preserving ancient studies and archaeology programs in universities.